Hey, it's Tom. Today we're going to have a look at the interactive LightMix feature in Corona 1.5, and I have that set up here with a finished render just to show you exactly what this tool can do. And the long and short of it is that you can adjust intensity and color of the lights in your scene during or after rendering. So here I have an interior scene that I'll be using, and as you can see I can adjust the environment color and intensity. So it's great for making subtle changes such as the warmth of the light, but we can also be more extreme. Let's turn this scene into a nighttime scene, for example. Change the color of my environment. Pretty good for moonlight, but let's just turn it down. And it's night, so the family will have turned on the spotlights. They didn't like the yellow lights in those though. They wanted something a bit cooler, so we'll do that. They're in the front room, so they've turned on the main light. In this instance it is actually quite a warm light. Somebody is through in the other room in the kitchen, so you can turn the light on now. And they turn on the hall spots on their way through. And lastly, they're security conscious, so they have a security light, which could be red, but they found that a bit too bold, so they opted for a cool green kind of color. So as you can see, we can totally transform the scene. And then the other powerful feature, we can save that. Let's just save this as night 1. Let's just say we want to have another version where there's nobody in the front room. The spotlights, they've actually went for some more mood lighting for that. Let's just turn off the other room. We'll leave the hall light on, and we'll make the security lights a little less intense. Okay, I can save that. Night 2. Let's just quickly set everything to black. Let's bring up our environment, but turn it back into our neutral color. It's a bit too bright, and then we can save that. Day. And then of course anytime I want I can load those back in, and of course I can do this for different renders in the same scene. If I have different cameras set up, I can easily go ahead, render from that different camera, and then load in my settings to instantly get night, day, and various other variations. So that's how it works at the end. I just wanted to show you what we're looking at here. Let's go and see how simple and easy this is to set up and use. Okay, so I'm going to start by giving you a quick look through the layout of the scene. And what I've done, just for the sake of this, is I've hidden most of the scene inside one group. That's not necessary, it's just for the sake of the tutorial. It keeps the Scene Explorer nice and clean. So I have, first of all, the other room light. That is a Corona light, and it's on its own, and it's off camera to give the impression of somebody being through in the kitchen. There's another standalone light, the hall spotlight, just here, and it's actually a standard 3ds Max photometric light. Next up I have the ceiling lamp, and this is a group which contains all the geometry and a Corona light inside it. Then I have the spotlights, and these are two groups inside an overall group. Spotlights left, the geometry and lights for the spotlights on the left of the room, and spotlights right for the ones on the right of the room. And the last thing is the security light just here. This is a group, and you'll notice it actually has no light in it, no light object, and what we have instead is the inside, which is illuminated by a Corona light material. So that's the scene setup, and I wanted to show you that because it'll help make sense of what happens next. So here are my render elements. I've deleted everything, we're completely empty, and setting up the interactive LightMix is as simple as that. I'm done. If I flick back to the render elements, we can see what's being created. We have one C shading LightMix element. Every scene that uses the interactive LightMix needs one of those, added automatically since I clicked the buttons. And now you can see why I wanted to show you how the scene was set up, because the way it creates everything is based on the groupings in the scene. So I have here the other room light. That's our single corona light that, if you remember, is off camera in the other room. Our hall spot, not a corona light, it doesn't matter, it's a 3ds Max photometric light, but there it is. It gets more interesting with our groups. The ceiling lamp, of course, none of the geometry shows. All we see is the corona light that's embedded in that group. Then for the spotlights, you'll see we have all 6 inside the one group called spotlights. And I'll just remind you that that was actually set up as 2 groups inside the overall spotlights group. So it's very handy. I can actually, of course, move these groups around individually if I wanted to adjust the positions of the spotlights left and the spotlights right. But when it comes to controlling them in the Corona LightMix, I only have to work with one group, which is ideal. And security light. Now that one, you'll remember, had no actual light object in it, and instead just featured some geometry painted with a Corona light material. And it too shows up here. You can see the name of the object painted with that material. And that lets me adjust and control that from the LightMix. And lastly, we have the environment. And this has no objects in it, just has the checkbox for include environment light. And that's the easiest way to set it all up. You can, of course, apply denoising to any or all of these. I will note, of course, that every one that you apply denoising to will require its own denoising pass, so there'll be that little bit of extra processing. For each one you add, the denoising pass will have to denoise the beauty pass, and then, of course, any of these that you have denoising enabled on. Now let's just go ahead and we'll start the interactive renderer. And let me just bring that across. And here it is starting up, and all I need to do is click on the LightMix tab, and you can see we have all the elements as created in the render elements list. And of course that's created from the way I have the scene set up. So I'm in the middle of interactive rendering, it's all active, and I don't need to wait. As soon as I click on this, you'll notice that the part being displayed changes to interactive LightMix from the beauty pass. So all you need to do is adjust, and the Corona VFB will change over to showing you the LightMix results rather than the beauty pass. And even while we're rendering, I can go ahead and make changes in the middle of interactive. And the same is entirely true if I'm doing a full render. If I hit the render button rather than interactive rendering, I can go ahead and start adjusting those even while rendering is in progress. So that's how simple it is to set up. Now you can set it up manually, and I will show you that next. But in most cases, the automatic setup will get everything up and running exactly as you want it to be. And now you can go ahead and control your output, adjust all the lighting and the colors in any way you like. I will note that if you start pushing values up above above 1, above where they're set in the scene, it does work, but you may, with extreme values, start to introduce more visible noise into the image. But as you can see, it's pretty effective. If I take off, let's see, turn the other light down. There we go. And you can see the noise from that particular light source, and if I extend that too far, it could cause problems. But it's very flexible and has a very wide range of use. One other thing to note is I can view each of the individual elements. It's a very interesting tool from the point of view of seeing any noise introduced in an image as to which light source that may be coming from. And of course, as we saw at the start with the denoising enabled, it's still very easy to get good final quality images, and the denoising will be used for each of these light sources if you switch it on. And I will also note, of course, you can save using save all. You can save each of those passes separately. So although you can do your compositing here in the VFB before, during, or after rendering, it is entirely possible to do your compositing in third-party software if you want to. And of course you could animate your blends in those post-processing third-party tools. If you wanted to take one frame, render it out, and have it change from night into day, you can do that. So you have a lot of very powerful options in how you deal with, how you choose to handle and use the results from the interactive LightMix. The save and load we had a look at before, and of course we have two buttons, reset to beauty and reset to black. If I do reset to beauty, we get the LightMix result that matches our beauty pass exactly, and reset to black turns all the intensities down, which is great for if you have lots of lights and you're really only wanting to introduce one or two for a particular render pass. Now I will note, of course, that the beauty pass here looks over bright because the beauty pass is rendering all the light sources, and this scene has been set up so that really we'd only be using some of those. So the beauty pass won't look exactly as you expect, but that's perfectly fine. And of course, we can go ahead and grab some of the settings that I saved earlier and load those in. Again, I'm still running the interactive renderer. Don't need to wait for it to finish. Okay, so that's a look at the automatic way, just a single button press, and I have all this functionality at my fingertips. I'll stop and restart everything and then show you how you can go ahead and set up things manually if you want to, and I'll be right back and we'll take a look at that. Okay, let's have a look at setting up the scene manually. It's still also very easy. What I'm going to do is delete all the elements that were added with the automatic single button press, and I'll walk you through how to add them in the scene. So first thing you need to do is add a C shading LightMix. Every scene that uses LightMix needs one of those. Next step is to add a C shading light select, and then we need to define what's going to go in that. Let's just make this the environment light. All I need to do is check the box, and of course I can give it a name that makes sense. Okay, and let's add another light select, and what I'm going to do is hit the plus button, and I'm going to add the hall spot. I'm just going to rename that as hall spot. New functionality for the add button. Let me just bring this in here. Let's do add another light select, and what I'm going to do this time is click on spotlights and then click add. And the new plus button functionality, what that does is add whatever I happen to have selected. So as you can see, it's added all 6 spotlights from within that group in one go. So we can go ahead and rename that. Now let's say, I mean, here we're just copying what we did automatically, but let's say we want to set things up a little differently, so we could say spotlights right. Let me just take those out, and what I'm going to do is open that group so that I can select the individual elements, and I'm doing the right. So let's grab the 3 spotlights in the right, add those. Let's add another light select. We're gonna call this one spotlights left, and what I'm going to do is select these 3 spotlights and add those. Now I'll be able to control the color and intensity of these spotlights separately, and that's the kind of reason you may want to set things up yourself manually, and we can continue with that. Let's just add another light select, and in this case I'm going to grab the ceiling lamp, and I believe my group must be open. Let's have a look. Group, yes. Now the add group functionality only works if the group is closed, so that's an important detail to keep in mind. And now I can just select the group and add. Okay, that's how you set it up manually, and then of course as soon as you start up the interactive renderer, let me just bring that across onto screen. You'll see that I have the setup that I created. We have an extra group, the unassigned. That's for any lights that I did not set up things manually for. Let's just reset the beauty. Okay, let's turn this off. And as you can see now, I can control the spotlights independently. Just open up a range of options. And the unassigned lights, these are the lights I did not put into a group. So we have the security light, and we have the light from the other room. And of course, the color control will adjust both of those at once too. So you only need to set up anything you want to control separately, and as you can see, it does let you build a different setup depending on your needs. So the automatic setup will usually do fine. It all depends on how you set the scene up, but if you're loading up an old scene where you hadn't given consideration to the light groupings based on using interactive LightMix, you can go ahead and set things up manually to get just the kind of control you want. So just to wrap up, let me show you what I mean by the load and save. I'm going to change my camera. Let's see if there's a different view of the same room. There we go. And what I can do is I can load the settings that I saved right at the start of this video, and we can see that those are applied to the scene. And I think I have another camera. Let's have a look. Yes, here we go. Another one looking at the room from a different point of view, and again I can instantly load my settings, so those can be applied to any camera angles in the same scene. It makes it very easy to save particular lighting setups for instant reuse. And that's about it for this tutorial. We'll come back at a later date and perhaps look at how to use the individual elements in third-party post-processing tools like Fusion. Simply a matter of saving all as an EXR, and you'll get all these separate passes that you can combine and composite in your third-party tools. But most of this you can do entirely within the Corona VFB itself, and a lot of flexibility and a lot of power in this. Certainly one render can now get you 3, 4, or 5 different light setups without the need to render 3, 4, or 5 different times, and that's going to be a big time saver. And of course you can then save and load those setups for different cameras in the scene. So you render 2 different cameras with 4 different light setups. You actually end up with 8 images, but the render time of 2. So I hope you've enjoyed the tutorial, and I hope you have a lot of fun using these new tools, and thank you for watching.